How you going? It's Ollie again. Been a while. Been working a lot. Anyway, thought I'd talk about my dog. When I was a kid, I got a dog. His name was Eddie. Black and white. His mum was like a boxer, half pit bull or something like that. And the father must have been like a border collie. So he's like boxer, border collie, pit bull mix. Big strong dog. And the way I picked him was, I was always told that whenever you go see a litter of puppies, you get the one that comes to you first. And there was a litter of puppies, and he was the only one with the black and white sort of look, the black and white spot sort of look. And he was the first one to come to me, and I took him. He chose me, and he was a proper lad's dog. It really was. He was a proper boy's dog. And I called him Eddie because at the time, this is in about 91, at the time there was a comedian called Steady Eddie, and I thought he was really funny at the time. He was an Australian comedian with cerebral palsy, and he was quite funny, and that's why I called him Eddie, after the comedian. Anyway, I was a kid, Anyway, so I called him Eddie, and we used to go everywhere together. We walked everywhere, all over the joint, all over town. Little town I lived in, Sorrell, and we, hung out all the time, did lad stuff, did boy stuff together, And as he got bigger, he'd actually take me for a walk, pull me along, and he wasn't the most disciplined character. Eddie was his own boss at the end of the day. Eddie was going to do what Eddie was going to do. But I loved him, though. He was a fucking cool dog. And so, unfortunately, there's a lot of corruption in the town that I lived in. And it's like Eddie and my dad's building projects are interrelated. Okay? They're interrelated. Because a little corrupt town council in Tasmania called Sorrell, Southern Tasmania, Sorrell Council, corrupt as fuck. And you're probably wondering, how does this relate to me dog? I'll get to it. Basically, my dad and his mate, who was an electrician, my dad was a bricklayer, a lot more than a bricklayer, but for this instance, he's a bricklayer. And his mate is an electrician. They had about an acre of land in the town, in Sorrell, and they wanted to knock down the two old houses that were on there. It was on Cole Street in Sorrell. Knock down the two old houses and build an old people's home, like an old people's retirement village for disabled people, old people, whatever. Got all the plans done. They designed the whole thing. Designed it all. I've seen all the plans. It was a big project that they wanted to do. And they tried to get it approved with the local Sorrell Council. Sorrell Council knocked it back, and they kept stringing it out. And this is back in the early 90s, 91, 92 at this stage. And they knocked back this building development in Sorrell. And they knew, like, they took the money to get all the approval done, all the money to process the project to get it approved. The council took the money knowing beforehand that they were going to reject it, which is an act of deception. It's an act of fraud. Like, if you know you're going to knock someone back, you take all their money and you knock them back, but you knew beforehand you were going to just reject it, no matter the merits of the case, no matter what, you know, what was going to happen, how good the project was, how good it might be for the town or whatever. You're still going to knock it back, and you take the money anyway. It's a fraud, right? And they sucked 50 grand out of me, Dad. 50 grand in 1991. Sorrell Council sucked that out of me, Dad, knowing that they were going to knock the project back anyway. All right? So that started something between my dad and the council, okay? Because he was a Pommy, right? So he was from out of town, and he wasn't Australian. So they really held it against him, right? They really fucking held it against him, okay? Your dad's from Yorkshire. Captain Cook's from Yorkshire. Sir Douglas Mawson's from Yorkshire. David Bowie's from Yorkshire, right? But they fucking hated my dad for whatever reason. Dad's got a very direct way of speaking, though. You know, but that's a northern thing, a northern English thing. You're fucking very direct in how you speak. Alright? It leaves nothing in the imagination. There's no innuendos. You speak direct. That's what you do with the northerners. They speak very direct. The people here don't get it. But anyway, so that started something between my dad and the council. And then they started saying that my dog was tearing up sheep. And it wasn't tearing up sheep. They said that my dog had been tearing up sheep for 3 years. Yet he was only 18 months old. So it's not possible. It's not possible. Simply on their timeline saying that he was tearing up sheep, it wasn't possible. He's been tearing up sheep for 3 weeks, for 3 years. But he's only 18 months old, so how is it possible that he was tearing them up? Not possible. You get out, he was an escape artist. He should have been called Houdini, because you couldn't keep him in the yard. That dog, you could not keep him in the yard. Yeah, that's me cat. Yeah, you couldn't keep him in the yard. He'd just climb out. He'd fucking get out no matter what, he'd get out. Even if you tied him to a big stump, put it in the ground, you know, he'd rip that stump out of the ground. He was a very strong dog too, so he did what he wanted to do. He's a rebel. And he kind of had my spirit about him too, which is, you know, you're going to do what you want to do, right? But he wasn't evil. You know, he wasn't evil. You do what you do in life, but you're not evil, and you don't go out of your way to cause harm. Eddie, yeah, I thought about that the other day. Eddie came up for me. He poor dog. So one day, my dad was out. I sent the council people around to take my dog. So they took him. My stepmother allowed them into the yard, and they took me dog. No court order, no due process, nothing. They just took me dog. So they took my dog, and they took him into the pound. And later that night, my dad took me around there and busted him out. Dad climbed over the fence where they kept the dogs at the pound, because he could pick locks. My dad could pick locks, so he fucking climbed the fence and had like a big cage with a canvas thing. Went in there, undid the lock, got my dog out, chucked my dog over the fence. I waited in the car, and he threw my dog over the fence and got the dog in the fence, and Dad jumped back over and we drove off and busted my dog out of the pound. So that upset a few people. And then we moved out in the bush. They still found us and they came for him and took him. They sent the police. They used the police then to take my dog. It was a vendetta against my father. A civil dispute between my father and the council led to them taking my dog, Eddie. Something I'll never forgive him for. Never. Never as long as I live will I forgive them for that. People say, oh, there's no corruption. Hey, fucking oath there is. Because my dad actually caused the Royal Commission into that council, that local council, Sorrell Council. It's one of the most corrupt councils in Australia. In southern Tasmania. It's an absolute shitbox of a place. Yeah. Anyway, that's Eddie. Rest in peace, buddy.